So decided to actually just buy the decking for my trailer here, because when I replaced these back ones, I realized, not these ones, these were newer, you can tell actually, but most of these are actually pretty rotten. That one's not bad. That's what we ended up doing with the center section. We just used a non-rotted 2x6. Actually, it was a 2x8, and we ripped it to fill that gap because we swapped from 2x8 to 2x10. That's why we have 2x10s again, and then they're treated. I think the first time around, the trailer was built with non-treated lumber. You can see here, when we were putting these in and just snagging it in and hitting this with the hammer, you can tell this wood's just completely falling apart. It's rotted. It's all the way through the center, which most boards will start rotting from the ends all the way through. So another good practice, if you have it, you want to treat the ends with like a beeswax, like heat up some wax or something and cover the ends, because that's where the moisture and the rot and everything will get in. So or reseal your trailer every year too, so that's a big thing. But yeah, we're gonna take all these boards out, clean up all the steel, grind it down just with a wire wheel, and then paint it and try to keep this thing looking a little better, and then we'll lay all the new decking. You're taking them out, they literally just broke. All the material is, all the material is real spongy. I didn't think they were really that rotted. I mean, you could tell the ends were, but they're bad. So me and Brendan are down here grinding all the extra rust off, hitting the tops, the bottoms, mainly hitting just heavy areas of surface rust, just so that when we go to paint it, our paint doesn't just flake with when the rust falls. He's getting down there, the real rusty areas. Mainly using wire wheel, couple flap wheels for when we took the old boards out. We had high spots that the self-tappers stayed in it. They were rusty and just broke off. And then, just some stripping wheels for the paint and the rust. But it's looking good.
Yeah, this was way more badass than the other one you had me holding.
Yeah, the power tool or electric plug-in is a little better than battery, for sure. So now what I'm doing is I'm under here, all the heavier areas we hit. Obviously you have some bare metal on top, but mainly I'm never going to be under this trailer now that I'm putting new boards on. So I'm hitting it with the rust encapsulator, Eastwood product. So that's the main goal, is hitting all this underneath stuff. Obviously make sure you don't get it on your brakes if you do this. So under here, I'm still spraying everything. I'm getting everything on the underside. I don't have enough paint to really get every bit of the frame. I mainly, any areas that were really flaky with rust I hit, even on the side, there's a couple spots that, probably the lighting can't tell, I hit really good and I ground down. And then now I'm painting the undersides and then this, these faces, and then I hit the other side already. And then I'll get up top later and do all that, but main goal here is just to save as much of the trailer as possible and flake the rust off and get it coated with something that's a good rust preventative. And then from there, you'd obviously just want to oil spray. And either way, it's cleaned up. A lot better. Looks good.
What'd you say, Mike?
Nothing. The peanut gallery.
Gotta make sure you do it right.
So finished working on the trailer. I didn't tie it down really with many screws. I did a row right here, self-tappers. A couple areas that the boards were like buckling, we did some like single ones in various locations. These are extra boards. The old deck had 2 boards that were newer. They were only like a year old, so I saved them. I actually used the one because my measurements came out wrong, and I bought that treated 2x6. It was supposed to go in the center there, and the math came out weird. I don't know, with some of them being warped with that gap and stuff. So we didn't use the 2x6. Just used one of the newer boards out of the pair that came off the old deck. And then put this back on. These we put underneath this plate here. We did self-tappers into the cross members all the way across on each one of these, all the way down. And then we just covered these with very shallow, cheap wood screws. And then at the time, we actually only had some Tapcons that had a nice countersunk top to them. So we used 4 Tapcons to hold this plate down for the vehicles to ride over, or whatever you bring up here. So these aren't like deep or anything into metal. These are just wood screws holding this down. But overall, it turned out pretty good. I'm gonna actually use it today to pull a truck. So